Hey there viewers, welcome back to Ed the Impala Guy channel, and as luck would have it, it was one of those days where I came out here to do one little thing and I ended up getting a whole bunch done and I forgot to grab my phone and record it. So before I go any further, we're going to get you up to speed because we've started the body work and the paint work on the hood and the bumper. So, since I can't show you what I've done so far, I will explain what I've done so far and hopefully it'll get you up to speed. We'll try and do some time lapse for the rest of it because this is really kind of boring stuff. But anyhow, here's what we did. I'm going to start with the bumper, and because it's kind of not as far along as you really think. We had a big crack that was running right here, and another one. I think it was right here. Another little crack right there, and then we had some gouges all over the bumper. This was off of a car that I got at the pull-apart yard, and it was still really in fairly good shape, and for $24, you know, how could I pass it up? But anyhow, what I needed to do, and I'm going to set you down here, I'm going to flip this over and I'll continue explaining. I'm going to tell you how I repaired it, and then we'll show what we're going to do from here. So hang on just a second. Okay, now that I got it flipped around, let's take a look at what the backside looks like. This is where that big crack was, and you can see that we've applied the filler or the adhesive, the epoxy, to the backside, and I really don't care how it looks back here as long as it's structurally sound. If you can see, there's a crisscross pattern in there. There's actually, I have a piece of screen basically running along and embedded in the epoxy over the crack to keep it kind of bound up. Same thing down here, same thing right there. The stuff that I'm using, I can get over here, is this stuff. It's 3M 05887 Easy Sand Multi-Purpose Repair material. Yeah, there's the material part. I got it on Amazon. It runs about $40 for 200 milliliters. This isn't like some of the epoxies are fast set epoxies for fixing cracks, but the problem with those is they cure like almost instantly, and they will fix cracks. You usually have to back them up with some sort of substrate. But the problem is they're very brittle, and if you know anything about these bumpers, is that they flex, and if it flexes in a part where you've repaired it, it's going to crack the repair. So this stuff is made to flex with the bumper. It's also sandable, and you kind of use it like body filler as well on the other side. If I flip this over, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Yay! It filled most of the crack. The crack was running right about here. It filled most of it, and then I sanded it down, and then I just used a little skim coat of the glazing putty over it to smooth it out. There were still a few little imperfections, and that's where we're going with that from there. You also notice I didn't take the lower grill out, and for some reason, hang on, move this back a little bit. For some reason, I couldn't get the darn thing out. It just won't come out. The clips are stiff, and I don't want to break it. So I'm going to just leave it in. I'll mask it off. We'll paint around it. We'll sand it as best we can right up in here. I can like spread it a little bit so I can get a paint stick with some sandpaper down there to rough it up so we get good adhesion. But anyhow, the next step for this bumper is we're going to sand it all at 320 to basically take the sheen off and prepare it for paint. We'll do a little spot priming, and then we'll sand the entire bumper, wet sand it at 600, and then that will be that'll be ready to go for paint. Since it isn't all bare plastic, you don't have to use adhesion promoter. Although you see spots like this right here, that has gone down through the plastic into the plastic. So right here. So probably what I'll do is I'll get a can of it's a spray can of adhesion promoter. It's called Bulldog, and you just hit those spots with adhesion promoter. There'd be no need to do the entire bumper because the paint is already on it and already adhered. All we're doing is scuffing up and smoothing out the paint. So once that's on, we'll adhesion promote the bare areas. We'll prime the areas where we put the body filler and any place that we've sanded through the paint. And then, like I said, we'll wet sand to 600 over the whole thing, and then we'll paint. This, of course, will have to be hand sanded in here, but like I said, most of the big flat surfaces are going to start out at 320, and then we'll wet sand after that. Everything prior to paint is going to be sanded to 600. Okay, now we go over here to the hood. This was another junkyard find, and what I had found out though is this hood has been repainted. That wasn't factory paint on it. It had a lot of stone chips, and you can still see there's some really small ones here, but there was a lot of big dings, and you can see like right there, it went all the way down to the metal and it had started to rust. So the goal with that is to get down to the metal, get the rust out, and then we're gonna treat it from there. So what I did is I started out with 80 on a random orbital sander, 80 grit, and we went over the whole hood. The area, I had a big dent right here, and it looks kind of like it had been repaired before because I actually found a little bit of body filler kind of over on one side of the dent. Like, let's say the dent was right here. Right here I found some like old filler. So anyhow, I sanded that all down, prepared it for just a really light skim coat of the glazing putty, and then we went block sanded it with 80 grit. To knock all the rough edges out, and then of course the next step is, they say 150. The closest I had some 180 discs for my random orbital, and I went over the whole hood with 180. Then I went over the whole hood with 320, and that's where I'm at right now. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray self-etching primer in on all these bare spots where it's down to bare metal. We'll spray regular sandable primer. After that dries, we'll spray regular sandable primer over the body work areas and any other areas that I need primer. And then when that all dries, we're going to wet sand it to 600. And then it'll be ready. And I'm going to set you up on a tripod. We'll see how much of this actual sanding stuff we get done, maybe some of the priming stuff, and then we'll go from there. Okay, hang on. All right, folks, that was just a light mist coat of self-etching primer. You can see right there. That's just for the bare metal. That's not like a final primer coat. That's nothing but treating the bare metal so that it doesn't rust. A little bit of protection there. Okay, folks, welcome back. For you, it's only been like a half a second. For me, it's been about 2 weeks since we've been out here working on the car. due to some family issues and some sicknesses that have been rolling around. It's cold and flu season, and it hit our house pretty hard. So I'm way behind schedule on the car here, but we're gonna get going. I've also spent a little bit of time cleaning up the shop a little bit. You'll notice the Impala flag back there, yay. So we got a little bit more room in the garage. We're also gonna be setting up a temporary paint booth with some curtains hanging from the ceiling, some plastic curtaining hanging from the ceiling. We'll get to that in a later video. That'll be more on the painting end of it. So for right now, we're gonna finish this video up. We're gonna continue the paint prep on the hood and the front bumper. And if you're paying attention to detail, you'll probably notice that this wasn't black the last time we talked in the last video, or the last portion of this video. And what happened is that I got to looking at the hood, and down here on the leading edge there was some pitting, and all along this leading edge there was pock marks from the paint chips and the rust. So what I did is I took I sanded her down with some 80 grit again to rough it up. And I took some glazing compound and I filled that and sanded it and I reprimed it. Unfortunately, all I had was black primer, so that's why it doesn't match. It kind of doesn't matter because the car is going to get, the hood is going to get sealed with a gray sealer. So it really doesn't matter what color the primer is. The sealer is going to seal it, and then we put the base coat and the clear coat on. We've got all of our paint over here. Picked this up from CarQuest, and that right there is $450 worth of paint and supplies. We have clear. I bought a gallon of clear, so that it's not all for this project. We got some Bulldog adhesion promoter, although from what I'm reading, with it just being spot repairs on that, they don't recommend using it over previous paint. So we're gonna have to kind of figure our way through that one. So there's the clear coat. Here's the activator for the clear coat. I believe this is the sealer. Yep, this is the gray sealer, and then the activator for the sealer is right here. And then we have the color, the mixed color, which is light tarnished silver, metallic, and then we have the activator for the base coat, and we have reducer for the base coat, and there's your formula for the paint. 8 parts paint to half a part activator to 4 parts reducer. They also gave me some mixing cups and some strainer funnels and some mixing sticks. I think for 450 bucks they were pretty righteous for, or they should throw all that in. Anyhow, like I said, most of this, like the clear, that's a gallon of clear. We're not going to use anywhere close to a gallon of clear, because remember it's a 4-to-1. So if I use a quart of clear, I'm only going to use like what? What's a quarter of a quart? Pint. So a half a pint. We're only going to use a half a pint per quart of clear of the activator. So, you know, I mean, it's going to last a while. So anyhow, same thing with the sealer. The color, we're probably not going to use the whole quart of color. So we'll have that color a little bit left over. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of Impalas painted in this color. There was a bunch on Copart this last week in the auctions. There was like 3 or 4 that I was going to bid on that were this color. So I thought, well, you know, that paint is a good investment. So anyhow, I've got a bucket of soapy water for wet sanding. We're going to do it right here in the garage. And I've got my 600 grit sandpaper all cut up. Okay, folks, taking a break here and running into town for some primer because I ran out. Well, actually, I didn't run out. Icy. Come on, traction. I could have thrown it in four high, but whatever. Anyhow, I thought I had enough. I had a full can of black, but it started to sputter and spit and not lay down a nice coat, so I stopped using the black, which is probably good anyhow. And I had half a can of gray, and I started in that, and that wasn't covering real well. It was a real cheap primer, so I just stopped with that. So we're going to run into town to the local auto supply place and pick up a couple cans of a filler sanding primer thing, spray cans. Really, if I had to do it all over again, I probably should have just bought a quart of primer at the paint store, but who knows how many hundreds of dollars that would have set me back for a 2K primer. Anyhow, you notice I cleaned myself up a little bit too. Can't go out in public in your pajamas, so we jumped in the shower, jumped in the Super Suburban here, and we're gonna run into town and probably pick up some dinner while we're there. So anyhow, hang on. We'll get back at it here in a minute. More 600 sandpaper case. We got a roll of masking tape and 2 things of primer. So hey, we're good to go. Okay, we're back home. You're going back on the tripod and on time lapse, and we're gonna commence to finish and priming this bumper so I can get to wet sanding the hood. Then we can get to wet sanding the bumper. And I'm afraid that's probably all we're gonna get done tonight. Although it'll still be a major accomplishment. So hang in there, hang on tight, whatever you want to do. Go get a Coke. I'm going to put you on time lapse. We're going to prime up this bumper with some gray spray paint or gray primer and get after it. All right, well, what have we learned here today? We learned that wet sanding is about as entertaining as watching paint dry, and you've been doing both. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. Anyhow, let's go over the wet sanding of the hood. The goal here is to sand it smooth to a 600 grit, all of it, and prepare it. That's the preparation for the sealer coat, the base coat, the clear coat. You'll notice that I was doing wet sanding. This water was a little soapy. I added a little bit of car wash to kind of lubricate the sandpaper. It works a little bit better than just water. The only problem is afterwards you have to rinse the soap off, and that's where you saw the second bucket of water there. Then you'll notice after I was done with that, I used the sanding block to kind of squeegee the water off, and it helps just get the water off to see what you've done. And then you run your hand over it and feel, use your sense of feel too. If you can feel an area that's rough, like there was an area right here that was a little bit rough. Well, where am I pointing? And there was one right here. So I dried it all off and I got the sandpaper, and it doesn't have to be wet. It can be dry. And I went back over that area and made sure that, that area was smooth, because it's not going to get any better the more coats you put on this. If it's rough, now it's going to be rough, when you start painting. We got the bumper all primered in. That's going to have to dry. I'll probably let that dry a couple hours before I wet sand it. So we're going to cut this video off right here. I think this is enough for one episode. While that dries, before I wet sand it, I'll go in and edit this video. I don't know when this video will post. This is Sunday the 11th, 12th? Sunday the 12th, yeah. I am going to put out a short video about a contest that we're going to run for the channel, and that I will probably post tonight first, and then I will, because that'll be like literally a 5-minute video, and then I'll put this painting, prep, sanding, primer video, bodywork video up shortly thereafter. So stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have 2 things coming out real quick. I'm also going to keep filming. The video might not be out till next week, but you know, we're going to paint this thing this week, and I will keep filming and we'll get the video out on that so you can see the sealer, the base coat, and the clear coat. Like I said, it may take me a few days to build the spray booth, and I may film that and just do that as a separate video of how to build your own do-it-yourself spray booth in your garage for cheap. So far I've got like $34 into spray booth materials. Anyhow, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for hanging in there with me through this kind of boring build Friday, whatever. I promise this will get a little bit more exciting. But this is the life of rebuilding a Copart project car that has, you know, damage to it. You know, it's a lot of just not glorious stuff, you know. The parts changing goes pretty quick. The sanding and painting takes a really long time, but in the end, it'll be worth it. So anyhow, I just wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. I'm up to 149 subscribers as of this morning. So I broke my 100 mark. I'm almost ready to break the 150 mark. And that's what the next video, short video, is going to be about. We're going to have some special things coming up, so stay tuned to the channel for that. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Go ahead and smash that notification bell so you'll be notified of new content whenever I put it out. I'm kind of sporadic. I'll do really good for a while, and then it'll go a couple weeks. But like I said, we've been sick here. I've had my mom with us, and we had to take care of her and some special things for her. And anyhow, I just appreciate everybody that comments, everybody that hits the like button, everybody that subscribes, and just let me know, you know, what you want to see. And we'll continue to try and put out some good content, you know, just every guy doing everyday stuff in a one-car garage. I'm just like everybody else, man. I just, nothing special here. No dang sons, no bald eagles, no nothing. So just Ed and his Impalas. Anyhow, thanks for stopping in. We'll see you soon.